Good evening, everybody. I'm going to call this meeting to order. It is Thursday, March 19th, 2026, and notice has been given of this meeting. So, Ms. Coleman, roll call, please.
Ms. Brown is absent. Oh, she's going to be late? Okay, probably stuck in that traffic, right? Okay. Mr. Chu?
Here.
Ms. DeMarco?
Here.
Ms. Devine?
Here.
Ms. Maya?
Here.
Ms. Sokolsky?
Here.
Ms. Sherman?
Here.
Mrs. Z?
Here.
Mr. McMillan?
Here.
I think Mr. Dilkus will be absent. Okay.
Okay. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Okay, so there was no executive session at this time. And are you guys, you're going to do presentations at the regular board meeting?
Monday.
Right, Monday? Okay. All right. Oh, Danielle is here. Just everybody take a look at Section 5, Future Dates and Miscellaneous Information, if you need to put anything in your calendar. And then routine business, we do that at the next meeting, correct?
Correct.
Yes, okay. So student report is at the next meeting. Superintendent's report at the next meeting, or?
No presentation.
Yeah, got it, okay. No presentations today. Our public comment section, that first section is actually for the regular board meeting on, which is coming up next week, but this tonight, our public comment section is going to be at the end of the night, all right? And then we'll move on to Section 10, Business Administrator's Report.
How quickly time flies. All right, so item 10.01. Hope everybody has their computers up and humming. 10.01 is a listing of the February 2026 school budget transfer report. We have not exceeded the 10% limit by law, and towards the back are the detail of all of the transfers. Right now, we have a lot of people going out on leaves, so you'll see a lot of transfers for payroll into into sublines. So that is your transfer report. Item 10.02. Stop me with any questions, too, by the way. Your board secretary's treasurer's report. Hold on, it's loading. But all accounts have been reconciled and everything ties out. There's no line account in your financial report has been overexpended. And the cash flow analysis is looking good through the end of June, your cash flow report. But if any questions on the financials report, please let me know. 10.03 is the listing of the student activity cash report. 10.04 is the food service financial statement. And I'm pleased to announce we are finally in the positive with the food service operations. Woohoo! Yeah, we're actually in the positive by about $28,000. It's taken us a couple years, but and then items 10.05 and 10.06 are still being worked on.
We'd like to publicly thank our principals for working collaboratively with NutriServe in order to get the bills and the balances reconciled. I know that it's a huge monumental task. I know that there's a lot of folks that are out there struggling, but it takes a village and it takes a team, and I don't want us to look lightly upon that. This time last year we were negative $70,000, and so our school leaders, our nutritional services teams, they've been working collaboratively to work in partnership with families to be able to reconcile this, and it's paying dividends. So thank you.
And in addition to that, my state association is still lobbying with Trenton to just find room in, I know it's not in the governor's budget for this year, but maybe in future years, that they just, Stacy heard me preach to this like a week ago, but just feed the kids. And I want to get out of the business of like doing this, just feed everybody, breakfast and lunch, and just be done with it. Like other states have figured out how to do this, and we have a meeting coming up with Lou Greenwald, and that's one of my talking points is to bring that up as well. Okay, and then 10.05 and 10.06, they'll be up by Friday. We're still getting that information in the board office. And then so jump down to 11.09, 11.01 through 11.08 are all those items that I just talked about. 11.09 is the budget resolution for approving the budget to go to the county office for review and approval as required by law. I did attach in the administrative content section to the board members a copy of the entire 100 and some odd page document for the Department of Ed, as well as the state aid printout, so you guys can see like the local fair share that they say we should be getting and the equalized valuations that they're using, as well as the average income numbers. That I know we always talk about these things, but I wanted to give you guys the actual document. I believe I sent that to the retrospect as well. So the resolution reads, obviously, approving the budget, total budget for the general fund, and that's our operating budget for the school district, $43,283,794. Of that, local tax levy, $309,859. That is I know people are going to ask, so I'm just going to say that's a 6.43% increase in tax levy. Most of that is generated through the health care adjustment. As in prior year, we get a 2% increase on our tax levy, and then increases in health care beyond a certain percentage, it automatically increases the tax levy, and it's a pass-through to pay for the increased cost of health care. As you know, the state health benefits plan, the school employee health benefits plan, their increases are about 31.9%. So thank God we're not in the school employee health benefits plan. But we're still looking at 22%, which is, I'm used to 8-9% for healthcare, so having something in the 20s is breathtaking because it's such a large jump from year to year when 2% only gets you about $400,000. So 2% on your tax levy is about $400,000, and it doesn't even cover a fraction of the healthcare.
Yeah, is
Yes.
there any, like you said you were going to meet with Lou Greenwald, is there advocacy happening at the state level to cap?
That is also on my list,
okay.
and I also brought up Chapter 44, that we need to look at that again. And I brought up, he's well aware that the school employee health benefits plan is not working, like the state health benefits plan, that they need to do something about it, but obviously he didn't have any answers, but I know that's on their list. So, and then special revenue fund, that's your grant fund. $5,759,044. Debt service, that's just the 2005 bond that we're continuing to pay down, $1,256,363, for a total base budget of $50,299,201. So of that, the healthcare adjustment is a little over $1 million, which is astronomical. But it's just the cost of healthcare. In addition, we're withdrawing funds from our capital reserve of $136,000. The purpose of this withdrawal is to, we went out for a grant with Department of Community Affairs for the tennis court. So this would be part of this $136,000 would be for our local share. In addition, we're going to do some work at one of our elementary schools on a roof and work on water in infrastructure. And then we are also withdrawing monies from our maintenance reserve of $52,807. Of that tax increase, it comes to about, forget that dollar, $320 a year on the average house in Collingswood. And what everybody wants to know, yes, we got cut in state aid. I'll give you the brief overview. And it is in that large budget document. We were short revenue of $1.2 million in balancing this budget, and increased costs of $3.3. So our budget is actually $4.6 million lower than it was last year. So I've cut $3.3 million in expenses in this budget. Well, obviously on Monday it'll be in the presentation, but that is what is being, the budget is balanced as I'm supposed to do by law. It'll go to the state. But I just wanted, Monday we'll have more of a presentation, but for the purposes of this exercise, your budget is balanced. It meets all the statutory requirements. And yeah, I'm ready to take any questions. Hopefully
Should we enter committee of the whole first?
Sorry. Thank you. I'd like just to make a motion to enter a committee of the whole.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Ms. Coleman, to clarify on the resolution, is the 1,054,000, the healthcare adjustment, is that just the healthcare adjustment, or that's the 2% plus the healthcare adjustment?
That's just the healthcare
Okay,
adjustment.
so then there's an additional 400 on top of.
Yeah, the total tax increase is $1,529,852
Gotcha.
over last year.
Yep. And so that's about 6% of the school tax levy portion.
Yes.
Right. So not the entire
Yes.
tax.
So if we didn't have the healthcare adjustment, we would be in much worse shape
Yep.
than we are. I don't know one school district in this area that's not taking the healthcare adjustment because we're all suffering right now. But yeah, our tax levy only generates about $400,000,
Right.
or 2%.
Right. Because that healthcare adjustment goes directly then to the healthcare.
Absolutely.
costs. Yeah.
Yes.
Just so I'm clear, sorry. 2% tax increase plus the tax levy cap. of
Yes.
$1 million. Got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So your total tax increase is about 1.5 million. Yep. And just to further clarify, the mechanism when you go to do the budget, it forces you to take the adjustment before you can do anything else. Like if you qualify for it, it's an automatic into your, it's like a complete, I can't even say, no, I don't want it. It's a pass through right to the tax levy.
I think it's also important to note that the additional healthcare adjustment does not cover the full increase in healthcare. It helps to offset, but it doesn't, it's not equal.
Yeah, the software lets you go up to the increase that the state health benefits plan is at. So they're at 31.9. So I could have gone to 31.9, but we're only at like 22%. So we're getting an adjustment on our cost. But there are school districts that are in the state health benefit plan and are got 31.9% on their increase. Any other questions? I'll keep moving.
I just want to thank you for putting that document up there and giving it to giving us all that information. I really appreciate that. I know that was a lot of extra work on your part, so thank you.
And no problem. And again, it's the DOE budget document, so it's not really user friendly, but it does literally have everything in there that's in the budget. And if you have any questions on it, just let me know. If everybody's okay, I'll keep going through. 11.11. Oh wait, excuse me, 11.10. I skipped. Even though it's included in the budget document, the state is very redundant. So in the budget document is our preschool, our preschool budget, but the Office of Early Childhood wants their own budget and their own board resolution. So in addition to the budget, we're also approving the preschool budget for submission to the Department of Ed, Office of Early Childhood, and our preschool budget is $4,348,518. And those documents are attached also. Some good news in item 11.11, the Collingswood Civic Collective, Civics in Action, they're going to be offering a scholarship going forward, so I'm looking for approval to approve this scholarship. They're going to set it up as an expendable trust account, and it's going to be funded by the Collingswood Civic Collective, and going forward, they'll be offering a scholarship to a graduating senior. So that's some good news on this gloomy budget meeting. The next item, 11.12, a little, I'll kind of explain what this is. They changed our open public, our meeting requirement. You know, I have to advertise in the paper. So there have been some changes to how we notify the public of our meeting. Before, I used to have to advertise 48 hours in advance, put it in 2 papers, blah, blah, blah. As of March 1st, it can go on our website. We have to have an interactive link on our website that we update constantly. So this resolution is basically saying as of March 1st, we are compliant. The retrospect will still be our first paper of choice. Courier Post is a backup. And as of March 1st, the notices to our meetings will be on our website. And in the past, our budget, when I advertise the budget, the little, I don't know, I don't know how many pages it is, but the little copy of the budget that goes in the paper, that will also be on our website moving forward. But it is required that we pass this resolution. There's also a state site that I have to hyperlink our site to a state. So if somebody goes on a state website and wants links to our district websites, we have to link them, and I'm in the process of doing that. So it's a little more complicated. But that's basically what that resolution is saying.
Ms. Coleman?
Yes.
Does that still have like the same timing as the newspaper thing? the
Yes.
website? Okay.
Yep,
thank
it
you.
just makes it, I guess, easier for people that are on their phones or want to like go to the state website and want to, they click on Collingswood, they would rather just see a link right from the Collingswood site.
Thank you.
Yep. And then item 13, we're just recommending approval to accept the mental health screening grant in the amount of $68,869. Item 14 is we're accepting the school-based mental health grant in the amount of $50,000. Item 15, we are I need approval to send a special education child to Brookfield and the tuition agreement. Item 16, sorry, my thing's not refreshing. Item 16 is an annual approval. No, I'm sorry. Item 16 is additional special ed child. Item 17, no charge, obviously. Youth wrestling charge. That's wrestling camp. LIC is Gold Wrestling Camp because it's an outside provider. The cost for them to rent to have their wrestling camp is $1,000. And then Matty Dogs, I believe this is the gentleman for the 4th of July parade to sell his hot dogs, and that's $200. And that is all I have for finance. Any questions on anything?
Do you know how many kids are going to Camden County Tech?
Let me look through my folder. I want to say a dozen or more because included in that is like a $20-some thousand adjustment from prior year. So I'll get the exact number for you.
So Ms. Coleman, when you said,
I'm sorry, 28 kids. As of October, I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's
As of October 2025, we had 28 children at the tech school.
when you said that you made 3.3 million in cuts, those
Yes.
will be, the details of those cuts will be communicated to us on Monday?
Yes, it's going to be part of the presentation. Yeah, we'll give you the descriptions and what areas, what categories, and everything like that.
It'll be categories. It won't be details. Okay.
Can I ask for 13 and 14 for the mental health screening grant, and does that go towards those two, 13 and 14? Does it go towards salaries, or does that go towards, what does it go towards?
I believe, judging by the dollar amounts, no. Doesn't go. I think it's stipends for people to do the screening in item 13. School-based mental health. I do know. Yeah, I think it's like it's a bunch of stuff. It's like stipends and.
We can get this
Yeah.
breakdown for you.
But I can tell by the dollar amounts. It's not a full person.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. All right, moving on to section 12. Meredith, you're up. I'm sorry, any other questions before I
So
do it?
because we're getting the budget presentation on Monday, to clarify on our part, because there is with the 3.2 or $4 million of cuts, that's going to be in line or similar with what we discussed with as the full board on in February during the retreat. Is that correct? Okay.
So before we move on, I just want to tell Matt that we just announced that there are $3.3 million in budget cuts, and we're talking a little bit about, that, not the details, but some of the information is going to be coming out on Monday, but I just wanted to make sure you didn't have any other questions related to that or any of the other stuff in section 11, which is the, buildings and ground stuff. Okay.
And everybody knows how to get me, so any questions, let me know.
Do you know if the governor's office has announced any additional, like, tax levy options?
Now, I had my county meeting yesterday, and we all asked, and it doesn't look that way. I think because she started her speech with, I will not, of course, everybody's taxes are going up because of the cost of health care, so it's kind of like read between the lines. I don't think so. Again, I think if memory serves from last year, because I still have PTSD about what went through with the budget we lived through last year, it was after our budgets were submitted to the county that they started releasing all of this stuff. Believe me, if they do, I'll be the first to tell you. But it doesn't look likely. Especially when we met with Lou Greenwald, he didn't seem to think that that was going to be an option this year.
Question, do you see us, them changing the numbers at all in the next couple of weeks, or probably not until later on like in June?
You mean the state aid numbers? No.
Okay.
No, they've very rarely. The only time they changed the state aid was 2 years ago when they made a mistake. When they started looking at the value of the towns and the income, and they were using like the wrong tax numbers. People started screaming because if you're a tiny town and you have somebody rich move in, all of a sudden everybody's paying more in taxes. So that was the only year that they actually changed people's state aids. But I've never seen them do that other than that. So unfortunately, we're going to have to make do.
With the state budget process, the governor's put out their budget. Now it'll go through with the legislator, and they have to approve the final budget in the summer. So there's a chance that there could be something, because there's a lot of school districts that are facing this. But I think also, to be honest, I think a lot are also trying to get school districts prepared for very hard changes. And I think they're going to use this as a mechanism to start forcing school districts to make very, very hard choices, because the cost of running school districts is challenging, particularly if you don't have a local tax levy that's going to support when you get cuts from the state like we did.
And just so the public is aware, by forcing school districts to make hard choices, you mean consolidating school districts and regionalizing, correct? Or
Closing school buildings, consolidating with other districts, all things, cuts. It's
I would add that even if the budget changes a bit through the process, right, the state process, until it gets finalized in June, I would not bank on Collingswood getting any additional money. If you look at page 8 of the state aid calculations PDF that Ms. Coleman attached to the agenda, what you'll see is that's the state aid change limits page. And what you'll see is that, in fact, the 3% cap, so basically what the state has been saying the last 2 years is, we'll only decrease your state aid by at maximum 3% of what it was last year. And what you'll see is that they were supposed to decrease our state aid by 2.4 million. And so the 3% cap actually kept us at 311,000. So if there's any change, I would not expect Collingswood to get anything extra, because they're saying that we should actually be losing, 2 million more.
Yeah, the only thing that saved us was the 3%, and not that that's great. I would expect probably in the near future us to continue to lose state aid. So I think the tenor moving forward is how do we generate that missing 2.4 million permanently going forward, so that we're not always on I don't want to have to do this every year, and nobody wants to hear me doing this every year. So I think that's something like, well, let's get through this, and then let's figure out what we can do in this area so that we are okay. What that looks like, I don't know, but we're going to continue to get cut because they consider us overfunded by a couple $1 million. Yeah, so sorry.
Ms. Coleman, I know Ms. Sherman asked about the tax levy incentive aid program, whether or not that would come back. But other than that, have you heard from other business administrators or school districts about whether or not they're going out for budget referendums to try to close these holes instead?
Yeah, I just got an email today from another BA asking if we were considering it. There's several in Camden County that are considering it in September. The operational referendum. Some of them went out in March. I think Robbinsville failed, but I can pull it up. Robbinsville failed, but there was one of them that passed. There was like 2 in March. One failed and one passed. No, like March 10th, like a week and a half ago, or a week ago. I'm sorry, my days.
Was it Middletown, I think, is that the one They had two questions, or, yeah, something, one up in north, they had two questions.
And then there was the
So,
one that
the one ti-
overdrew their budget,
Right.
that did the
That-
referendum to try to save themselves, and I don't know if they called it yet, because
I
it
think
kept,
that's the one, so.
Montclair, yeah,
So
and-
Montclair won the question one.
did it
which is-
win? Did they win?
Question
Okay.
one, which is the one time to close the hole.
Yeah.
Passed, but the second question to do the permanent 5 million increase is, I think, currently 8 votes apart. And
Wow.
there are 24 votes outstanding.
Yeah, and it takes them a few weeks to certify the election, so I don't know. Yeah. So I think a lot of districts are going to be looking at ways to permanently save themselves and stop this
So
bloodletting.
when would, if districts were looking at those referendums, when would be the next time that districts can go out for budget referendum?
You can go out in September, December, March.
Is there one,
You can do one in November if there's a general election. I don't know if there's one this November.
is there one in May or June? I thought, is there one in
There's
June?
4. September? I'm having a brain issue. September, March, yeah. March, September, December. There's another one in there. I'll look that up, but there's 4 dates in addition to the regular election in November. So the next one would be probably September. Because you need you have to give the county 90 days notice.
Are we holding that there is any, I mean, getting more revenue, that feels like that's not, like, I'm just trying to make sure we're holding the right frame. We just heard we're gonna get an explanation of $3.4 million in cuts, and the question I have is it gonna be enough to not have to continue to try to go out for a vote to get more money from a community that is already fairly tapped? Right, like, I appreciate the questions, but I want to sit in a space of, do we truly believe that that question is even reasonable or solvent in this community? And so I just would offer and ask that whatever we are presented with on Monday in that level of detail, it is getting us low enough that we're not in that, can we hit a referendum question vote to close the gap in either this year or next year? I want to make sure we're really having a plausible, we're balancing something that's truly plausible.
I think and it would be caution to think that that would solve everything, because we still would be in the same place where we can only raise our revenue each year by 2% of that tax base, and the cost of healthcare is going to continue to go up, costs of transportation, salaries, all these things continue to go up. We're still capped. So maybe it is a stopgap for years or two, but it doesn't change the fact that we've got to make hard decisions here in our district to be more efficient. So I think I've seen that with other towns and how they're talking about this, because a lot of them that passed these huge tax hikes are now having to close schools, and people are coming and asking, well, why did we just raise taxes? And it's because even the amount of revenue that we can bring in each year is never going to be able to catch up to how fast expenses are growing. And that's going to be a problem no matter how much we get in a referendum.
I do think that this is definitely a question that we need to wrestle with as a board, right? Whether or not we want to raise revenue or not, or we want to ask the town to raise revenue or not. I think one thing for us to keep in mind is Collingswood has the third lowest effective tax rate in Camden County, and that's like entire county, right? So our tax rates, are the third lowest in Camden County, and so that is something for us to consider, whether or not that means that we have more space to be able to raise revenue to pay for, health insurance, and, teachers in classrooms and facilities, or if there are other options that we have to look at.
I think it's got to be, we have to do something about revenue. There's no doubt about it. Because the state's going to continue to cut us. But we have to look at the expense side of things, because our expenses are just, the cost of everything is just through the roof right now. I mean, we're all feeling it in our homes. imagine it here. The costs are we just can't keep up. And the state's having a problem because they can't keep up with the costs. So it's everywhere. I would be remiss to just blow this off. It's an expense issue, and I think we're all feeling it. I wish I knew the answer, but I think it has to be both. I think we need to look at where we're spending, how we're spending, and revenue, so that we're left with something that we can all agree on. Because this isn't going to go away for a little while. I mean, now with what's going on in the Middle East and everything, like, the prices are through the roof. So, I mean, I'm struggling with it. I mean, like, yeah, because we're going to we raised the money last year, and then we're back right where we were, but we didn't really cut anything. We just plugged the hole last year, like, bloop. We really didn't address, so now we're cutting. But then once we cut, like, I don't know if we're in this again next year, I'd throw my hand in the air. That's kind of where I think that's why people are like, we don't know what to do at that point. To be honest, I don't know that the governor's office knows what to do. I don't know that anybody knows what to do at this point. I certainly know the president doesn't know what to do at this point. You can quote me too. But that's the space we're living in, right? So I can tell you what has been presented to you is it's met your requirements as a board. And then after we get through the public hearing in April, I think I need to start meeting and having serious discussions and come up with a plan we can present that we can all live with. I mean, that's what we have to do. Any other questions?
Is there any mechanisms at the state level that, like, cap inflation costs for, like, third-party services that are servicing schools?
Oh, I wish. Absolutely not.
Wouldn't that be a great law?
Wouldn't that be a wonderful thing?
Yeah.
No. They actually, the state, things get passed down to, like, I don't know how to say it, like the least common, like, things get passed down to school districts that people don't even understand. We pay for everything, and there is no cap. Our taxes are capped on what I can raise to pay, but the fees and the costs of certain things just get passed right down to the school district. We did mention this when we met with the Fair Funding Group. There's a lot of unfunded mandates, a lot of laws that they pass that make sense, I guess, in the moment, but they don't realize the financial impact it has on the people actually doing the work that are in the seats trying to make sense of it. And so, yeah, I know the Fair Funding Collective, I know they have a meeting coming up with Luke Greenwald. I came up with some talking points that I would like to give to them. But I welcome anybody else has any great ideas on how to close our budget holes or give ideas for things for them to present to the governor's office from Camden County when they start having their budget discussions on what they can do. I think I came up with like an eight bullet thing. So if anybody has any ideas, let me know and I'll add it to my list.
I mean, I don't really have an idea right now for us, but it's the same thing, expenses and revenues at the state level, right? And so the governor put in $12.4 billion into the school funding formula portion, right? And that's what, 300 million or 400 million more than last year. But the problem there is that it probably needs to be like 15 billion, right? But there's not enough money at the state level.
Yeah, they don't have enough revenue either.
Right. So they need to increase taxes, and I think there are a lot of different progressive ways to increase taxes to pull that revenue in.
Very vocal on, I will not, so.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
you can see that some of the stuff that she's doing, but you need to do it at a bigger scale, right? I think one of her proposals was to lower was it the anchor tax or something, property benefit from a cap of 500?
The Stay New Jersey.
Yeah, say
the
from
Stay
like
New Jersey.
500,000 income down to 250 income, and like those type of things. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if she next year recommends a lower, right, income cap there, because that's how you raise revenue to be able to pay for this stuff and to add more. But in the end, we can talk about the school funding formula and how it needs to be changed or whatever, but if there's not enough money to put into it, we're always just going to be in this cycle.
So I just want to make sure I remember from last year, our revenue sources are taxes, enrollment, and grants aren't really revenue, but they can fund things. And then maybe if we can get revenue from events, right? Am I?
Tuition.
Tuition.
So
So
our biggest,
tuition,
our
so
biggest
enrollment.
one is, there are
So-
actually, the
and
biggest
purchase
dollar amount
services.
is taxes. We get about 6.3 million from tuition, that's from Oakland and Woodland. We do get some unrestricted miscellaneous revenue, so that's like, interest and use of facilities, that's about 280,000. And then we get 10.7 million from the state.
And the state is based on the number of students enrolled, correct?
It should be.
So I guess I'm gonna.
It's a weighted average. So
okay.
they look at the last 5 years and it's a weighted average on the number of kids that we've served. Our
the-
enrollment is going down too, so that's
Yeah, that's
obviously
why
not helping our situation, correct?
So my line of question is kind of around, is our trajectory over the last 5 years that our enrollment is going down? And so one of the things
Yes.
I'd like to ask that we discuss is what is our plan to address enrollment? Because if we get more butts in the seats, I get it, difficult, but it is part of the math, right? I'm just offering, can we impact enrollment is really the question, not.
It's
really-
not-
So
Well,
let me
I'm
let me
asking.
let,
It's not
let me
really
let me
part of the
let me
math,
let me interject, because I think that there's two trains of thought. From a budgeting perspective, the state assigns a projected enrollment number. On average, in terms of students that are transferring out from year to year, we went and checked, it's 35 students. And so, for example, this current year, we were projected by the state to have 750 students at the high school. It's 680. And so that's showing that there's a discrepancy between what the state thinks we have and what we actually have. And so in terms of like the number of kids that are leaving, it's 35. And so I just want to make sure that we're framing around that. And so from an enrollment projection perspective, this is how we're reporting to the state, but from an actual enrollment perspective, it's 35 kids per year.
Yeah, and the reason I'm actually asking is that I do think we need to start to frame enrollment in what we actually are getting funded for versus what we're seeing, because I'm not suggesting it's worse or it's going down appreciably more now than before, but I do think it helps with that, well, how much is gonna get us to a number that will help us increase funding is really why I'm offering the question.
I think if you look at how the state funding formula is calculated, especially for us, enrollment really doesn't have anything to do with it. And it's because, it's part of the base, but because our losses are capped at 3%, you can probably change your enrollment by 100, 200, and the amount of state aid we would get would not change because we're
What
supposed to
it
be.
would give us is an enrollment adjustment, but then an
But then it
enrollment
would be-
adjustment, as you know, goes on taxes, it's not state aid.
Right, so essentially, because one of the biggest pieces in the school funding formula that is affecting our fair share is the multiplier on our local property tax, or sorry, our local property values and local income, right? And because those two things are rising heavily, and also because the state is increasing those multipliers, then our local tax burden looks to be a lot higher than it was before. And so again, if you remember earlier, I'd said that the state, their calculations say that they should be giving us from last year to this year $2.4 million less, but they're only taking $300,000 away from us, right? So what I'm saying is if we had more enrollment and the state said we should get $1.5 million less, it literally changes nothing in our state aid, because the amount that we should lose is so much bigger than what we're capped at right now. So really, like these sort of 35 students right now, those kind of year-to-year changes, I would argue don't really have that strong of effect on our, or really honestly any effect on our state aid. Probably the most places where enrollment does affect our budget, it would be Oakland and Woodland student changing, and that would be right, because that's direct tuition amounts.
Yeah, so I think that was actually the thread I was trying to pull, is around how do we ensure that those sending districts send the maximum number of students, right? Like, it is the campaign to keep and maintain that flow. I'm not suggesting that I totally appreciate that the tax base is a quandary for us, but it is also how do we make sure for our sending districts we are really bringing in as many students as possible is something, just a strategy to think about, because as we make tough decisions, and as I try to square, I think 5 to 6 pre-Ks, I'm trying to understand how those tough decisions, what they look like in 7 years. And so I just want to make sure that I'm clear, right? Or even I will have hopefully a pre-K or next year. What will it look like when he's 5, right? Like, so I'm just trying to make sure that we are not making decisions to get through today that cannot sustain us for tomorrow, and that we are also trying levers in other ways that are within our control. Because at this point, it's, unless we can convince our own local municipality to fundamentally change how they tax, I'm not sure that we have much else to really play with other than major cuts this year and hopefully getting more students from our sending districts, if I'm not mistaken here, and maybe asking the community to pay more if we can swing that.
I did look up the dates. I forgot January. So.
Okay, good evening. I don't have a eloquent transition to my section, so I'll just carry on here. Tonight, there are a few items that I'll run through. We'll spend the bulk of our time, I imagine, talking through calendars. So we'll start with 12.02, which are some elementary field trips for approval. If you have your computer open, you can click in and see the attachment. It's a variety of, this is the time of year where you're going to start to see every month lots of field trips. So I'll just pause to let you skim, but you'll see both for the elementary, middle, and high, your typical array of spring and end of year museums, 18 to 21-year-old community-based learning projects and outings. 12.03 are the middle school, and 12.04 are the high school. So I'll just pause to let people open and skim and ask any questions that you have about any of those.
I think we should plug the middle school choir for June 4th. They're singing the national anthem at the Phillies, looks like. Yeah, looks awesome.
I'll just keep going, but I can come back if there are any questions. Item 12.05 are 6, 7, I think 1 carried on to the next page. Medical, special education, and a disciplinary home instruction. Item 12.06 is an out-of-district placement. Beth Ann referenced that in her section earlier. Item 12.07 will you'll want to click on the attached link. So we're going to talk a lot about calendars for the next probably 10 minutes, I imagine here. Okay, so 12.07 is the amended, updated June 2026 calendar. To make the necessary updates and adjustments based on winter inclement weather and our district's recognition of Juneteenth on June 19th. So let me talk through a couple things here related to that. Bear with me because I have to say this, then this, then this. So I have a few kind of things to talk us through. So first and foremost, we had 2 snow days this winter. So you may be thinking we should be making up 2 snow days. You would be right to be assuming that. When we went back to double, triple, quadruple check everything in the 25-26 calendar, we realized that in the template that last year's working group used to design this calendar, I designed the template and then many people collaborated on it, but I inadvertently left off Friday, May 1st. So we approved a calendar for what we thought was 180 student days, but actually we made a mistake in the right direction. It had 181 student days built in. So unless everyone would like us to continue to make up those 2 extra days, jokes, we only need to then make up 1 student day. So that's why you see the last day of school shifted to Monday, June 22nd, a half day. And you see the 19th is grayed out as a district and building and central office holiday in recognition of Juneteenth. The last day of school then is the 180th day. The 18th of June is the high school graduation, as you heard us discuss at the February meeting. And then if there were to be any other unexpected closures, you see noted at the bottom on the right-hand side, the 22nd, 23rd, 24th would be the 23rd and 24th, excuse me, would be any additional makeup days should we need them. I'll pause there for any questions. Moving on then to 12.08, which is the approval on Monday, the approval for the 26-27 school calendar. So I'm going to, before we go into the review of the actual calendar, I'm just going to zoom out for a minute because we have some new board members with us now, and so I just want to take a moment to talk through the process that we use to create the calendar. Some of it was almost identical what we did 2 years ago. So we put out a message to the entire Collingswood and Oakland school communities for anyone interested in serving on a voluntary working group, with the goal being a unified working group of Colls and Oakland employees and staff to create a unified Colls and Oakland pre-K through 12th grade school calendar. So I'm going to thank some folks by name tonight. And you'll hear, hopefully, as I read out these names, there's about 13 people here, some of whom are here tonight. We have intentionally a really diverse array of individuals involved, from folks who teach or lead pre-K all the way up through high school, buildings and grounds, teachers, leaders, general ed, special education, to make sure that the committee is intentionally formed of a really diverse array of perspectives and viewpoints. Some of the committee members were on the committee 2 years ago, and so brought that historical knowledge with us, and about half of the committee were new folks. So again, kind of keeping some continuity, but bringing in new voices and perspectives. And so I'll just thank by name tonight Principal Jen Bolden in Oakland, Kim Hallenbeck, Mike Sinesi, Dave Oliveri, Todd Weisenstein, Oakland 5th grade teacher and the OEA president, Robin Hogan, Kathy Whalen, Heather Murray, Dr. Whitehouse, Jen Floyd, Brad Klein, Laura Kriebel, and congratulations to Laura Kriebel on a beautiful new baby. Laura Kriebel and myself served on the calendar committee. We met over three meetings, a couple of hours at a time, and drafted the calendar here that you see before you tonight. A couple things that I want to call out in terms of what's included in the calendar and why. Number one, we included as much professional development time as we possibly could within contractual limitations. So there's an additional half day for professional development in October, the usual 1.5 days that we've taken over the last few Februarys, and another half day in March. Probably the biggest change that you see included here is a reduction as much as possible in elementary half days. And so if you live or work in this community or a parent or know a young person in this community, you've probably heard over the last several years a lot of feedback about the number of half days that our calendars have typically had over the last several years. And so this year we put out a survey to any current pre-K through 5th grade families in Collingswood and Oakland, current elementary staff in Collingswood and Oakland, and any folks who are staff and parents in the community. We got over 300 responses and 100, slightly over 100 sort of open-ended responses in addition, incorporated in those replies. We asked for folks' feedback around when fall conferences occur, and we asked for folks to weigh in on any adjustments or feedback that we could make to better serve our families, staff needs, et cetera. The response was pretty overwhelmingly to please make an adjustment in how we structure conferences and half-days. And so in response to that feedback, what you see on the calendar are two things that we've been responsive to. Typically, fall conferences, I guess I'm using air quotes, typically fall conferences have occurred in early December. On that feedback, in that feedback survey, families and staff rated, we gave them a few options to choose from. Families and staff most preferred the conferences to occur not in December because of the hecticness of that time of year, and asked for them to occur earlier in the fall if at all possible. Because as we typically do conferences in December, it's right when report cards are coming out. And so some of the feedback we heard was if we could do the conferences earlier, it would give families a chance to hear any feedback or suggestions for ongoing work that they could do with their child and children at home early enough to be proactive and make an impact before the report cards come out. And then sort of coupled with, please get it out of December, which is such a tricky time. And so that's why you see the conferences are shifted to the last week of October. That will occur after our fall universal screeners have occurred, and we think far enough into the school year for new teachers to have formed a connection with their kids and have enough information and context to share with families. The second big thing related to that we shifted is, if you notice, in March of 2027, in fact, like this week right now, is when we would have our typical fall conferences. And so what we are doing here, again, in response to feedback from families and other stakeholder groups, we've reduced it to 2 conference half-days on the 8th and 9th of March 2027. There was a bit of a mixed, a split decision in the working group. Some members of the CEA were wishing for more time to meet with more kids and more families, and I can understand that feedback and that request. I feel like the 300 survey responses are compelling us to do something different and to listen and try to make an adjustment. So I'll be the first to say, I don't know if this adjustment is the perfect plan. And as you've heard me say before, we'll be watching and listening and asking for feedback to see if this is the right approach. It feels like some steps in the right direction to be responsive, but it may not be, it may not work exactly as it intended. The 2 conference days with the amount of time slots that we can see, each teacher will be able to see about half of their class. And the idea there is for it to be sort of a targeted conference rather than hitting everyone. And so, again, maybe not a perfect solution, but I think it is us attempting to ask for feedback, listen, and be responsive, and we'll continue to make adjustments if we find that that's not the right kind of cocktail. A couple other things I'll say here. There's a 4-day weekend in May of 2027 that is intended to be a huge thank you for Teacher Appreciation Week. You've heard me perhaps share before that Teacher Appreciation Week usually falls in the first week of May, which is also usually smack in the middle of state standardized testing. And it gets tricky to be able to do something because the week is so kind of tightly scheduled for testing purposes. And so in this year's calendar, May 2026, we have a half day on the Friday before Memorial Weekend intended as a thank you to staff and teachers. With the way that next year's calendar falls, we have a few extra days available because one of the Jewish holidays in the fall occurs over a weekend. We would normally take off for that. The winter break is a day or two shorter next year than it was this year. And next February is a leap year. And so there's a couple extra days at play. And so we were able to make that a 4-day weekend, which we think is an even better way to thank our teachers than we were able to do this year.
Next February is not a leap year.
It's not?
It's not.
Oh,
It always coincides with presidential election years, just to,
great to know.
there you go.
Oh, you know what?
Trivia thingy.
You know what? You are correct. I know I know, I just confused myself, because we also drafted and designed the 20, you're right. We did 2 years ahead. You're right, I'm 2 years in the future. Okay.
I learned something today.
That's great to know. Okay, I think that is everything I have to say about the 26-27 calendar. That's not a leap year, but the 27-28 is. I'll take questions, suggestions. A lot of eyes have been on this, but there might be an error or a mistake that that we haven't. So please, before we approve it on Monday, please, any questions?
So I just have a couple, one question about the 27-28 calendar. I don't see that on here. Are you going to be putting that up there soon?
It's
No?
not quite done yet. So we drafted it, we designed it. I could share a draft with folks if that's helpful, but it needs a little bit more TLC, and contractually we need to approve the calendar this month for 26-27. So we wanted to get this one done, and then we will keep chipping away at the 27-28 one. And we'll probably approve that in the next month, have that for you to approve in the next month or two, but it wasn't quite ready for tonight yet.
When you get those two calendars up, are you going to be putting them up on the website? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the last thing, I just want to, again, I said it last year and I'll say it this year, I think the fact that you had such a diverse group of people and they were all involved, and I think that, them being part of the decision-making process really matters. I wish we could do everything like that, so I think that's great, and I appreciate all your work on that, and for everybody that was involved.
Yeah, thank you for this. I was also going to ask about because I thought you said you were going to start doing 2 years. So thank you for answering that. As you know, I always brought up the ICS, right, or the ICAL. So you're going to do that again, I trust. And one more thing, if I can just put some feedback, if we could have a color legend on there, because you have colors, right? Now we have green and orange and 2 different blues, I think.
You have to guess what that means.
Well, that's not.
Right.
I'm done with school. I don't want to think about that. But if you could put a little color legend on the bottom, that would be pretty amazing.
Sure, good feedback.
You always have the best ideas. Last year was iCal. Yep. And now it's Color Legend.
I have a question about the spring conference days for the elementary. So if we have this calendar, which is 26-27, and we're already working on the 27-28 calendar, if this setup doesn't work, we will revise the 27-28 calendar to reflect what, based on feedback and stuff like
Exactly.
that.
So
Okay.
in the way that we just amended the June calendar,
Yeah.
we would do exactly that.
Okay, thank you.
And then, this is great. I just want to make for the spring conferences, this isn't really calendar, but will the approach be 15 minutes, or will it be allowing for a different time slot? Because I actually probably was one of those who was like, I'd rather be able to have more time than 15 minutes to cover everybody. So how will that be the adjustment to have a conversation, or will it be the same thing to get them all to count for everybody?
Yeah, so it depends. One of the things that I said that maybe I should have emphasized better, this would be targeted conferences by invitation, and so I don't want to make any generalizations about a typical class, because there is no typical class, but we allocated enough slots for about half of, so 12 or 13 or 14 kids to be seen. It's atypical in Collingswood, gratefully, that many kids would be designated as struggling academically or for whatever, and so we'd be looking at sort of those tier 3 students that need and that's a pretty small percentage of our students. So where I'm going with this is, if a teacher needs by invitation only to meet with 6 or 7 kids, then it could be a 20 or 30 minute conversation rather than 25, 26, 27 kids, a 15-minute conversation. So we have enough slots to be able to see half a class should the need arise.
Got it.
If that were the case, they would still be that 15-minute length, right? But ideally, we're seeing fewer kids for a longer, more in-depth conversation.
That's fair. I'm just putting in a plug for the targeted approach. I just want to make sure. I was reading the makeup days, which probably need a review again to make sure I'm reading this correctly. May 5th, is that day special? Is there a legend on, may I recommend a legend for makeup days so no one's surprised? So like make it a snowflake, make it red, I don't care, but like so people can see these days as they may be it. Because I was trying to figure out why is May 5th important. I think that's the date. So
Yeah, I would echo.
I was trying to understand how to
Yeah.
read this. So either can you
I-
decolor code it or tell us how to read this May half day? I missed how to read it then clearly because I was like, is that the
I would echo Ms. Devine because it is confusing. My interpretation of it is it's actually May half day,
Great.
28th, right?
Okay,
So
well, like,
the- the-
spell out
so the-
half or tell me
yeah,
that.
because
Yeah,
basically
sorry.
the idea there, right, would
I
be
was
that
like, is that
the 28th would become
Yeah,
half
here,
day.
let me explain it,
Got
what
it.
it
Thank
means,
you.
but then, yes, we can, if that was, yes, we'll certainly clean that up in the legend. So the May 28th of 2027 is currently on this calendar, full closure. If we have 181 days in this calendar. If it snows once, no change. If it snows twice, the 28th would become a half day so that 4 hours counts.
Yeah,
But we just need, I just wanted to say what that meant,
That's
but
perfect.
got
Yeah,
you.
no, I just did not read that as easily. So
I can
thank
see
you
why
for
that was
Yeah,
not
it's
clear, yes.
And I actually want to jump on the makeup days too. I would encourage because I don't think it necessarily would be inappropriate. I would encourage us to maybe add a few more possible makeup days because I don't who knows what's going on with the climate, just so that if it makes sense to just say June 21st and June 22nd of 2027 could also be makeup days because
It was the tundra this year.
who knows what's going on with the climate. I think it's just better to be prepared.
I mean, can you do that, Mert? Because I know you said that you have 184 days contractually, right? That you have to stick to also?
These would, I think Roger's point was just to denote more than one or two, so that wouldn't impact the ceiling of student or staff days. But yeah, we can extend that out.
Back to the colors. What do they mean? It's a light blue elementary. Did I get the theme?
Okay, hold please. All right.
No, I think I did. I cracked the code. Light blue is elementary. Yippee! What's green mean?
All right, I'll start at the beginning.
St. Patrick's Day, obviously.
Oh my goodness. Orange means it's a staff professional development day, full day, no students. Light blue, bright blue means it's a half day for all K-12. Gray, with a full X through it, is a holiday. Green is a half-day holiday for all, no staff professional development. The lightest blue is elementary only. I don't know why you would need a color legend. That was so clear.
There's colorblind people out there, just saying. I'm kidding.
Thanks.
That's all the colors.
Thank you.
There's full X's and hashes also.
We will add a legend. It's in the notes to add.
And I would like to just apologize that we beat you up about the calendar every year, but you're doing great.
But if you have it on your phone, the iCal, then you're good. So.
I just like to add that I think I really appreciate the willingness to try something different with the elementary school conferences. I know I've had some families talk to me, especially about the December ones, right, where it feels as if their students could never get into any sort of rhythm in December because especially after it's like I've literally had parents say it's as if school's over once Thanksgiving break comes, right, and so having this so that you can at least maybe have like 3 weeks of real school in December seems like hopefully will pay off for our students and maybe for the staff in terms of be able to wrangle the kids better during December. So really encouraged by this and hopefully it turns out well.
If there are no further questions, I'd also like to close by thanking Irene Graves, who inherited this work from Anita before her. So many thanks to Irene, who's gone through many versions of edits of this over the last few weeks. I've been very patient. I have 4 or 5 other items if we go back to the agenda then. 12.09 is where I think we pick up, yes. 12.09 is an approval for an external one-to-one to spend 20 hours per week with a student, no cost to the district. 12.10 is a pre-K specific workshop, but maybe something we might all be interested in benefiting from is a workshop on reducing screen time and alternatives to screen time for young children. And that is everything for me. Any other questions, comments?
I think we're good to move on to section 13. Who's covering that?
Sorry. All right, item 13.01 is just a listing of subs that we need approval for the 25-26 school year. 13.02 is a listing of the travel expense form. We have 2 resignations in item 13.03, Caitlin Seeley, and 13.04, Sky Case. We want to congratulate in item 13.05, Ingrid Kinkler is retiring. Items 13.06 through, there's a lot of them, hold on. 13.11 are all FMLA, NJFLA requests. And then 13.12 and 13.13 are revised FMLAs. 13.14, we're approving Sue Kish. We're going to issue her long-term sub-secretary contract, $117 per day. Item 13.15, Jenny Berryhill, a middle school special ed teacher, long-term sub-replacement. 13.16, Samantha, hopefully I was saying her name right, Mosner, long-term sub-replacement teacher for high school math. 13.17, issuing a long-term sub-replacement teacher contract to Lindsay Juria, high school history. 13.18, Stephen Collis, a permanent sub for the high school. 13.19, it's a temporary placement contract for Penny Bigelow for LTTC work. It'll be either a per diem or an hourly arrangement to get us through March through the end of this school year. 13.20 is issuing a long-term subcontract to Christopher Kulik, high school science teacher. 13.21, Chris Kelsch, we're recommending him to provide supplemental health math support sessions. It's going to consist of 10 30-minute sessions. 13.22 is a listing of the 26-27 psychology interns that we will have in the district next year. And they will each be paid a stipend of $11,000 each. And I'm so happy we can still able to get them. They're hard to get. 13.23, approving the 25-26 student teacher stipends in accordance with the CEA contract. 13.24 is issuing a contract for a high school athletic stipend, weightlifting. And then 13.25, so 13.24 is replacing the gentleman at 13.25. And that is it.
Okay, we'll move on to, or any questions for anybody? Section 13? No? Okay. So we'll move on to section 14, policies. Looks like there's a lot up for review.
So a lot to read through in terms of the policies. Majority of them are just language revisions to existing policies that are mandated. And so we would ask for you to read through those and then be able to generate questions so that we can make the appropriate adjustments before you vote for them to go to first read.
I do have one note. Oakland has the same items up. If I remember correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, item, let's see, policy 1220. Is that the one? The employment, yeah, the employment of the chief school administrator. You have options to choose. Oakland chose the first option in the back, but they want to be consistent with what Collingswood does. So whatever you guys decide, I'm assuming that's going to be that one. But that's what they chose, but they'll be consistent with what you guys do. Okay.
Would it be possible to upload the Strauss Esme memo as well that comes with these policies? I think there was some mention of them in some of the policies.
Yeah, I'll get Irene to upload it.
Thank you.
I think there was also a mention, if I recall correctly, about policy 2430 and the alignment between Oakland and Collingswood districts. It's the co-curricular activities. There's just
Yes.
there's a there's a lot of differences between the two. I can't name them. I mean, it's literally 4 pages to 2 pages. But I think we wanted to get those kind of aligned a little bit better.
2430, the only, Oakland is reviewing it simultaneously. Bless you. The only.
Yeah, you had it in it wasn't in the policy readings. It was in your section of the Oakland board that we talked about 2 days ago, I think.
Yes, but this board reviewed 2430 February. So maybe I don't follow your question.
I think the question was, it was Therese that asked, but I think there's just, she wanted to make sure that Collingswood did have this, but if you look at the two 2430 policies, they're wildly different. So if we could maybe just look at them and kind of get them aligned together. Because I mean the one for Oakland is 4 pages, and the one for Collingswood's 2 pages, and it's just, I mean, obviously a lot more differences than we have just to discuss right here.
Yeah, I can go back and double check. I think I shared my screen and showed the blue highlights with the policy committee at Oakland.
That was a different one. I remember that, but that was a different one. Yeah.
I will go back and
Thank you.
triple check.
So just to check, the ones that are new, we've never had those policies in, for the district. So we've never had a sexual harassment for staff policy before? Or was it kind of mirrored in in something else? I don't know.
If I remember correct, because I did read the Strauss Esme memo that came out, and I will get this uploaded. I think what they did is it was in a bunch of places. So they took I think you're going to see us abolishing a couple policies in the coming months, and I think they all they smushed it all into one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, if you can upload the memo, just to.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it said, but yeah, I'll get that. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and the library materials one, I think, isn't that a recently passed law? I think it was. That was, yeah. Yeah.
One's brand new, and the other ones are all revisions. Yeah. Everybody okay with policies? All right, and then in miscellaneous, we just have 15.01. We have our HIB report from last month for approval. And then 15.02 is the mandated memorandum of agreement between the school district and law enforcement. If anybody would like to read that, really. Oh, Fred just announced the policy. The Strauss Esme alert is in the admin section. Sorry.
Thank you.
So if you guys want to read the 85-page document with the MOA, it is attached as well.
Is that the policy alert summary? Sorry. Okay, thank you.
And the MOA, that's typical, we do that every year, right? Okay.
Yeah, and
just
it's a,
clarifying that.
basically a state
The
mandated,
state-
yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
Great. Before we do public participation, does anybody have anything else that they want to talk about, or any updates on anything? No? Okay. All right. So at this time, we'll move into discussion and public participation, and I think we need to come out of committee of the whole. Yes, thank you. So at this time, I'd like a motion to exit committee of the whole.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So for this section of public comment, you're welcome to come up. Please stand, state your name and address, and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. The public is reminded that attempts to resolve all concerns and complaints should first go through appropriate staff members and administrators, and I believe Ms. Coleman will keep time for us. All right, no public participation tonight. So I'm going to move on to section 17. We already did that. Move on to section 1702, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.